other things. So now we are ready. We know that the client wants to go ahead with services with Ballycara. Great news. We're going to convert to a client. So on your inquiry screen, you've got the button up here. We're just going to convert. This brings up our conversion screen. And again, this is just prompting you for that information that maybe you hadn't captured at the inquiry stage that we would like to capture now that they're moving to a client. You can change things, you can add things in, you can leave it as it is. We'll click save. We'll be able to always edit this information on the client record anyway. So if everyone has done that, converted to the client, now what has happened is this client field here has populated with a link because it has created that contact for us in the background. And now we can navigate to our client record. So the inquiry really is just to capture that initial information. Now we're on the client, and this is where we're going to really sort of get as much information as we can, especially all of the required information. We can do things like upload a photo of the client, if that's something that we want to do. We can confirm the information. So again, this detail section here is just a bit more of a high-level overview of the information that we've put in or that we want to put in. And we can keep coming down here and adding in different things. So I'm going to, we've got a sub-region now. We've been provided another contact number. Again, free text fields, so any other specific information around calling, it might be, don't call this person in the morning or whatever. Eye color, again, all of this information, it's up to you whether you provide it. With our address, we have, oh, the Google address isn't there. Pauline, can you just note down that the Google address isn't showing there? We'll just get that fixed. Basically, there should be another box here which links us to Google. So when we start typing in the address, it will show us the Google address, and we can click that and it will populate everything here for us. Otherwise, if it's a bit of an unusual address and that's not coming up, we can manually put all of that information in. And if the mailing address is different, we can pop that there as well. The LGA code would populate if that Google address was in there, so we'll definitely get that fixed up. Any additional information, decision-making, client demographics, medical details, we've got a whole bunch of things here. We can hit save. And again, the activity, now you'll notice that the activity that we did on the inquiry hasn't moved over. So that is just something to keep in mind. It's just because the contacts don't have the correct relationship to pull that information over. That's a Salesforce limitation. But it is just something to keep in mind. If there was something quite important on the inquiry that you want to make sure is captured here, we'll maybe just have to pop that in again. Okay. So now we also have up here what we call a compact layout. This shows you some 5 most important sort of key information about the client. You have the phone. If you've set up a click to phone on your system, that will work. We haven't set anything up yet. Email, if we click on that, it will pop up our email task to send an email to that client. The email will come back into the email address you sent from. It won't come back into Lumary. You can set up the free plugin on Gmail or Outlook to do that. However, that will be something that we'll do, that you can just do later down the track. This is our activity feed. This is, again, just a bigger, save that. And then our activity feed should show that call here as well. So it will show it in this side and it will also show it here. Okay, so now we're going to click on associations. So basically now we're just going to work through, these are all called our related tabs. This is all related information based on the client that we want to get. So I'll get you to just sort of walk along with me and we will start creating some information. So client contacts, again, this is people like your emergency contact, next of kin, carers, all those sorts of contacts that you want to make sure are linked to this client. If they're an existing contact, we don't want to create them again. So that might be, you know, a carer or maybe someone is a related contact for multiple. We'll come in here and we'll search for that related contact. We'll say that these two are related. This is the emergency contact. The type again, and we'll save.
Sorry, Amy. I
That's
might
okay.
just, yes, slow down and give a bit of context in terms of our organization on what the screens we have seen so far. So this is for all the Balikara users. Inquiries that we get at the moment is through phone calls. Through Lumary system, we're trying to log that inquiries in the system. So the earlier screens that Amy just showed us, where we log the inquiry, you know, the client details, that's all been done from customer relations officer. So which is a change of business process for Balikara. So CRT team will also have the access to the system, which is why Denisa is here with us. We'll be doing that initial inquiry logging of a potential client. Now, after that inquiry is logged in, Amy showed us that we have the ability to tag to a certain person. So based on the reason, for example, let's say John's calling from, you know, Melbourne, Tanisha will then go on and, you know, tag that inquiry to a CSC. Amy, CSC means case managers, right? That's the lingo that we use. Tanisha will then tag that inquiry to a Melbourne CSC. Now this screen that we are seeing right now, that's seen by the CSC. It's not seen by the CRT. CRT just logs in the inquiry. That's it. But the whole onboarding process is done by the case manager CSC. So you might have, you know, Tanisha might have questions. Am I doing this or not? That's the answer is no. So this is done by the CSC. So just wanted to put that context so that, you know, people don't get confused.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions in this? Okay, back to you, Amy.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Rohan. Yeah, I always sort of forget to ask who should see this screen because, yeah, sometimes it is a little bit different. So thanks for that clarification. It's great. So if we just pop back into our associations, we can see now that that association I've just created is here. We've just noted that it's a friend. That's great. Something I did just want to show you is that when we are in this screen and across Lumary, you will see that there is this display as alert button. This is something that if it's really important that when anyone goes to this client, that they see this information without having to drill down into each of the related lists and whatnot, like it's really important that they see it. We would put that here. And the description should be, you know, like you must speak with Nadal on behalf of Edith. Maybe not so relevant for this section. However, just to show you the functionality. When we come to add medications and things like that, it might be really important to note that this person has an EpiPen. Make sure they've got the EpiPen on them. Okay. So again, just another validation error. I've tried to add another emergency contact. It only lets us have one. So we're going to call this the next of kin instead. And then here is our alerts up here. So we don't want to clog up this field because we really do want it to just be for really important information. So I wouldn't use it sort of willy-nilly, but if it's something that you think is really important for someone to see, you can see it's alerts, it's highlighted in red, and it will come up whenever we navigate to that client. And it's just a good way to make sure that information is always seen, no matter where they click around, it will just stay there. So back into our associations tab. Next, we have associated providers. So when we come in here and we click new, we have some lists of your associated providers, which you would have added into the system as accounts. And these are, again, just things that you want to make sure you are logging against that client. And then we have our personal identifiers. We actually have a flow in the background, which you'll probably all notice that all of your clients have one of these. That is just creating this unique identifier for you without you having to come in and do it every time. That's just something that we've set up as a requirement. So that will automatically get created. However, we can come in here and we can add any extra personal identifiers that we like. So Medicare number, government health card, companion card, DVA card, pension number, tax file number, anything that you want to capture, we can capture in there. And then we also have this concept of client tags. This is more for scheduling purposes. So we will go into this more in the scheduling workshop. But say, for example, the person speaks Mandarin and you want to have a tag that just says that they speak Mandarin to highlight to the scheduler that if there is someone who can also speak that language, to go out to them. If it's required, you can put that there, whatever might be relevant for the business. When it comes to scheduling jobs for this person, we can create that tag. Okay, great. So I will just quickly jump back to something that I probably should have touched on first, and that is creating accounts. So these, like I said, are the organizations related to your business. Now we have what's called a record type. What you select here will change the information that you put in on the other side. So if it's an agency, if it's a business, or if it's a household, and we've got this little help text under here to sort of help you decide which one it is. So say we want to add in a business, and I'm just going to add in, sorry, I should be versed with some Queensland. Let's call it Gold Coast. Nothing else looks like it's actually mandatory, and that just creates this business account that we can associate clients with. We can upload any files, any contacts, chatter, activity that we have with them. So sorry, that was jumping a little bit, but I just wanted to quickly show you that. So now I'm going to come back into my contacts, recently viewed. So that's great because this is where I want to be. If I wanted to change my list view, I could come back in here. I'm going to go back into Edith. And we've added in all of her associations. That's great. We're happy with that. Now maybe we're going to come across to health. Actually, before we go into health, we are ahead of schedule. So we might just take a 15-minute break now because I don't think that will go to the end of the session today. So we'll just take a 15-minute break now, come back at 20 past, yeah, sorry. Brain not working for a sec. So yeah, we'll come back at 20 past and then we'll crack on. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions that you want to ask me in the chat in that me that time, feel free. Okay, we'll come back soon. Thanks, guys. And I'm not recording. Let me just stop that.
Amy, I've just forwarded an email I received from Sarah Nichols. She's having issues seeing the reports dashboard. So I had a look. Sarah's set up as Lumary standard profile. So it's a bit weird because others who have that same profile are able to see the dashboard reports. But I saw a screenshot of her screen, so if we could investigate that as well.
Yeah, sure. So the reports and dashboards, or is that the home page?
I'll just pull that email.
Oh, sorry. Do I have the?
It was in the home page.
This report chart is not available. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, sorry about that. We'll definitely note that down as well. Pauline, if you can just note down that Sarah isn't able to view that homepage. I do have an email of what that's looking like. Can be quite strange because everyone's basically set up with the same stuff. So it's sometimes we just got to dig a little deeper and see what's going on there. So we'll get that sorted out. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
So can everyone see my screen now? Yep, perfect. Okay, so I didn't touch on it at the start with the general navigation. I'm just going to hop back a step. We do have this favorite star up here. This just lets you, again, favorite certain records, list views, reports, basically any page you're on, you can favorite it. Once you add the favorite, you just have your drop down list, and you can, same like bookmarking within your URL up here, we can just favorite within the system. You can use that how you see fit. So now we're on the health tab. I'm actually just going to add in some more information about this client because we've not really done so much at the start. And so you'll see all of this here is blank, and this is all pulling in from information that we've done separately. We can do this two ways. We've got our bar on the right-hand side here, or we can click edit to bring up a full edit of the client. And so I'm just going to add in some numbers. I know that they're going to be a HCP level 1 client. We'll have your site set up here. We're going to go HCP. And then I'm also going to come down and pop in some information on the disability that we have. So Alzheimer's, the date of diagnosis, any secondary disabilities. This is a multi-select, so we can add in a lot here. And then we have medical conditions as well, can be a little bit repetitive. And then, so we have a special box here for hearing and vision, and we can save that. So now you see these fields have started to populate based on what we've put in the background. So yeah, that's just good to capture. And now we can also come in, and again, if everyone can just follow along, let me know if you have any issues. For those who have the health tab, sorry about that for those who can't see this. So new medication, this is in no way a sort of, you know, when you're administering, if you're administering medication or anything like that, it's not really to be used in that way. But we have added this GP medication list, which was a requirement. From what I understand from the workshops, quite often you'll just get a letter from a GP with all of the medications that the client is taking, rather than coming in and entering every single one of those medications. We've created this record type for you. So you would just come in here. It's a medication list that basically you're going to be scanning and uploading into the system. We have a box here for high risk medications because obviously we want to make sure that we're keeping on top of if there is anything like insulin or EpiPens or anything like that that we want to make sure we note is in this medication list, and the review date, so the date that the letter was given to us. When you create a record, you'll see that this little bar, it's gone now, but that pops up. I'm just going to quickly do it again. If you catch it, you can click on that link and it will take you to that record that you've just created. If you miss the link, you can just come and click on this unique identifier here for this medication that we've done. So this is pretty basic right now. It doesn't really tell us anything, but we have this upload file section here. So we can come in here, we can upload a file, or we can open up our file browser on our computer. We can grab a document and we can click and drag that into there. And that's just going to upload that file for us. So now we want to go back. So we'll come back to Edith here. This. So I've added in the medication list for Edith. We also do have 2 other record types here, which you can have a play around with in your own time, see if it's something that you would use. We obviously have regular. This is more of the, again, manual, and this is why we've done the GP upload, because some people are on a lot of medication. You might not want to come in and create a new record for every single one. However, if you do want to come in here, and this reference data is just all in the system, and it gives you all of the different sorts of information that you can put in, the route, the frequency, the storage. Storage, I guess, I don't know if it's relevant for you, but obviously some dementia patients might have it in a lockbox somewhere. So that is the sort of information that you would want to capture for anyone that is going out to the client that might need to know where that is. Webster packed or individual checkboxes there.
Can I just ask something in regards to if it's a medication lockbox? Often we have, as you said, with people with dementia, can we put in information about where it's stored? So, for example, if you're a new support worker at home and they said, "Oh, it's in the lockbox," well, where is the lockbox?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, exactly. Good question. So, the medical storage here is a free text field.
Oh,
so you could say lockbox, you know, in the kitchen, above microwave.
Oh,
and you could even pop the code in here, 5077.
Yeah.
And then we can save that. And that will come there. No problems. And so then lastly, we have our health conditions. Again, this kind of can double up with the disability, but also sometimes not. So say we have aged care health, and it just comes through here and it just adds in any sort of conditions that you're wanting to add in. We might want to display as alert that they're on a dementia care plan. I'm not spelling that right. Care plan. And we might want to say in here, can be aggressive. If a plan needs to be completed by yourselves, we can check that box. We can hit save. And then that will pop up there as well. Our health condition. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Now, next we'll move to our assessments tab. Just something to note on this, which will make more sense in the next session, is that during your HCP onboarding, there is a path that takes you through the assessments, goals, plans as well. If you complete it here before we start the onboarding process, those related assessments will pull through to the HCP as well. Again, that will make more sense, but I just wanted to let you know that if you start the onboarding process, then you will be prompted also to complete the aged care assessment and the goals for the client and whatnot. So if we come into our assessments, the first thing we have, case notes will automatically come in here once the case note actually gets entered in, you know, on the job when the service is delivered and someone adds a case note, that will just automatically pop in here, which is why there isn't a new button for you to create one directly from here. The next tab is risks. So risks are obviously quite important for us to note down for the safety of us and our clients. So say we've got some behaviors of concern, just can get agitated. We want to display it as an alert. And we're going to put some details here. Can get agitated. Oh, my spelling is not okay. Can get agitated on occasion. Maybe just like verbal aggression. And then we can come down here. We've got possible consequences, moderate, you know, as you see fit for that risk. We're just going to come down, risk to staff, risk to others, immediate response. Again, if there's an alert notification, it might be something where you need to call someone else or get some help in. You can put your immediate response here for the client. We can save that. And now because I have added that as a alert, it will come up here. We've got our details. So the person can see coming onto this client contact that this person can be aggressive. That's something for us to keep in mind when dealing with the client. So yeah, the risk section, feel free to create risks, have a play around, see what you would put in there, maybe what you wouldn't. And those will just all pop up. Next, we have the assessments. So I believe the main one that you will be using is the aged care assessment.
Mm-hmm.
This we have built out based on what is on your current form. So it is quite long. You can feel free after the session, if this is something that you'll be entering into the system, maybe come in here, have a look at how it you know, feels and reads to you. And if you have any questions or anything that's not quite making sense the way we've formatted it, please just provide us that feedback. Not much is required, so I'm just going to save that. We do have some mandatory fields. So we've got our hearing. What else do we have? Client fully independent in this area. And our review date. Whether that's 12 months, six weeks, whatever we want to put in there. So that assessment will come in here. When we create our HCP onboarding process, this assessment is also going to link into that. So you'll be able to see that from that process as well. We also have client referrals. This is obviously if you are referring the client out, or internal or external. Probably not something that you'll use so often, but it's definitely a way that you can mark different referrals that are coming through. Scores is, you know, these different score assessments related for your DEX reporting. So we can come in here. We've got the 3 different reporting types. Again, I won't get you all to create one on this session, but yeah, do feel free to come in for your client that you've created, do some scores, see how that's looking and feeling for you, comfortable with that. Now we can also see here all of the inquiries that we've had for this client. So say the client has inquired a number of times over years and have decided not to go ahead, and now they've decided to go ahead. As long as we're creating those inquiries and linking them to the client correctly, they will all show up here.
Can I just ask something, Amy? You know, when
Yeah.
you were talking about the scores client, all of
Yeah.
our clients have to be reported on based on DEX or obviously through the aged care portal.
Yeah.
So how do we ensure that that's completed in order to make sure we don't have to go and look at data later on down the track when we are due to report?
Okay, so when you come to the DEX reporting, you have to have the scores in here. Is that for each three?
Depending on what they're pulling to complete the DEX report, because obviously DEX is just CHSP, not home care.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, if we can just note that question down, Pauline, and I'll just double check on that. The DEX reporting we are still setting up. Okay. And we will do a session on DEX reporting as well. So we'll just make sure that we cover that off in that
just
session.
making sure, obviously, with DEX it's mandatory, because you can't, when you go to pull your report to send through the department, if there's obviously the fields aren't completed, you've got a nightmare trying to pull that report for the department.
Yeah, if I just have a quick look, I'm jumping and we will go into this in a lot more detail. I just want to have a quick look if our CHSP onboarding process doesn't seem to have that. Okay, so we might just need to add that into our onboarding process for CHSP, which will guide the user to do that.
Excellent, thanks.
Yeah, definitely we'll have that sorted for that session. Okay. So, yeah, and then the last thing is incident management, which is, again, it's probably a process that's fairly, self-explanatory for you all. We have our different record types, client incident report, probably the main one. Your assigned CSE, so say that's myself. The incident location, the description of the incident. We have all of our different descriptions of the incident. So it might be other or harmful behavior, any witnesses, immediate action taken. We have these checkboxes here. Was the supervisor notified, FA administered, first aid administered, an ambulance called, all these sorts of things. Again, it's, obviously it's always important to record anything like this, any near misses, anything else like that. We have a section here, which is for the CSC or the RN to complete. So if I save this now, so you'll see here, because I've assigned myself as the CSC, I have now got an notification to let me know that this incident form has been submitted, and then that person in that role will know that they've got some information that they need to make sure that they've reviewed the incident and that they have completed any relevant fields, that they need to create. So we'll come back into Edith and our assessments. And so now you can see we're starting to build out this client. We're starting to see some records that have been created. We're starting to get a bit of a better picture to be able to service the client properly.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah,
and Amy, this might be something moving forward, and I do apologise if I'm asking random questions that will be answered.
No, it's good. It's good.
In regards to the support workers view, obviously we're viewing it like a CSC. For the support workers, I'm just mindful of, some of those risk assessment documentations and also information and case notes that some of the, obviously, that they can see of one another so that they know what's gone on in the home before they've gotten there. Is that what the support workers will see, or?
Yeah, so as long as the worker or the role they use has been set up under the correct profile with the correct permission sets, they should definitely be able to see this section. Again, that's maybe I can't quite remember how we set up roles, etc. So maybe, Pauline, if we can just check that. And then also that'll be something when it comes to your testing and your training and things like that, that you just make sure that people can see what they can see.
Yeah.
They need to see.
Yeah. Because I know there's been a lot of feedback from the support workers about going into a home and not being able to see the visibility from our previous thing. So if, say, I was to go in the afternoon, someone's come into the morning, made a note and said, actually, the person didn't take the medication, they're not feeling well. And I've come in the afternoon and have no concept or idea of what's going on in the home.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we'll definitely note that down, Pauline. I think case notes and whatnot definitely will come through. I imagine for your support workers, they'll be accessing this on the phone. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was just going to mention that. So that's a great question. So the support workers will have the visibility of the incident, logging in the scheduler app from their mobile app, but obviously few of the fields are restricted in that. So as long as the CSC is putting that as an alert from the Lumary system, support workers, before they go on to a shift, they'll be able to see, the incidents, the risk that's present with the client.
Can I ask though, what if it's a case note that the support worker's written that's just happened and it hasn't got to the CSC yet? Will the support workers know?
Right.
So if you've had, as one support worker out that morning, they've written a case note, someone goes out in the afternoon, you just want to make sure that they can see that person's case notes.
Will that be visible?
Yeah, okay. I'm fairly certain it will be. We usually only restrict case notes between sort of, like different areas where you've got like support workers and things like that.
Yeah.
I do know that we, as scheduler, are still setting up some of these forms and whatnot in the system, but we'll definitely note down, and in that scheduling session, that's when we go into a lot more detail about what the support worker will see. We'll bring up the mobile application on the screen. We can see what they can see. We'll definitely make sure before that session that we can cover off how they can access incidents, risks, and previous case notes. And the best way for a support worker to flag to the next support worker, something that's really important for them to know for the job. So we'll definitely note that down and cover that off in that session.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for that. Okay, so right, next. So we are flying through this, which is good. So the next tab, I am probably just going to leave this for now, because we do have a whole session on service agreements and building our contracts and things like that. It is just good for you to see it here. For any HCP clients, you'll be likely building this out within the HCP onboarding process. And actually also for the HCP clients, we have built a custom onboarding process where you will add them as a funded client to a block service agreement and whatnot. So it would be, I would think, quite unusual that you would come in here and create a service agreement straight from this screen. However, you do have that access to do that as well. But we will go into this in a lot more detail in that specific training session. Obviously, it's probably one of the more important parts, so we do go into it in quite a bit of detail. So the next tab is plans. This is where we can add in our goal achievement plans, our personal support plans, any client leaves, so any breaks that they're having from their HCP or CHSP services, and the processes, which again this is where we initiate our onboarding, our offboarding for CHP and HCP, which we have a whole session on. So we will not look at that today, but what we will have a look at is maybe if everyone wants to create a goal achievement plan. So we can click there. We're going to go for a care plan. And we're going to call this. I'm not sure if this is relevant. I just saw this in another training video someone did. So we're going to link who it's assigned to. So I'm going to assign it to myself, the description, would like to learn to dance to gain confidence and strength. We can display the goal as an alert, but we probably often wouldn't do that. We have a report due date, so if we want to report on this, we can put that in there. We can save that. Now, if we come into our goal achievement plan, what we created then was just basically the shell, and we're going to come in here, we're going to add in a lot more detail into our goals. So we will add in our goal outcomes and our names. So goal detail, this is a little bit repetitive. So we're going to refer this one out. Service type, social support. For our CHSB clients, we've got our frequency and whatnot. Then for step one, maybe the first step is book physio session. We're going to do that by the end of the week. Who's doing this goal is the physio. Date of the goal, date completed, any notes, and we'll just work through all the different steps that we need to achieve the bigger goal. There's lots of different ones you can do. We don't need to do them all. And then all of our steps here will come down and we can step down and see all of the goals. This is also something that you will be stepped through during your onboarding process. So one of the paths is goals. And then obviously we will sort of start to budget and book our services against the goals and our planned services. So a lot of the time you probably would just wait for that onboarding process to go through your goals. But it's also just good to have a little bit of a play around, get used to how that works within Lumary. We then also have our personal support plans. So these are different plans that we can create. We're going to go for a general support plan now. Our domain. So again, a lot of this, as you're working through it, will probably make sense. If it doesn't make sense, please feel free to give that feedback to us. Within our list views and all of that sort of stuff, we are able to, like we said at the start, we can just add in a field if you feel like something's really missing, we can do all of that. Again, we've got this display as alert that pops up everywhere throughout the system. And that's why it's good to not clog up that alert system, because it's like anything, if there's too much information, it can start to be ignored. So it's really good to, I don't know if you want to set business rules in place for what you are going to alert on and what you maybe aren't going to alert for.
Sorry, Amy, to interrupt. Can I just ask a question too? Obviously, behaviour changes. So for sometimes agitation might be a factor because there's something going on for that client, but 2 weeks later, the agitation is no longer there. Can we remove alerts?
Yes, you can. So if we come into one of our alerts, so yeah, say we have this aggressive, we said that they could be aggressive. Like you said, maybe that. So we've just clicked on that. It tells us the record that the alert's sitting on. So we can just navigate to that record. And then we can simply uncheck the display as alert. Probably wouldn't want to delete. You can delete records, but we probably wouldn't want to.
No, just a history.
Things. We want to keep a history of things.
Yep.
But yeah, and I would also recommend, and we could put our date close to say we're actually going to close this health conditions. So it's probably unusual wording, closure, but we want to close it because it's not actually relevant anymore for this client. And then we can come back into Edith and we can see that alert has dropped off. And it is, like you said, it is a good idea to, keep this up to date and have a quick look and think, well, maybe this isn't required anymore, let's remove that alert. It's just good housekeeping to keep on top of that sort of stuff, definitely.
I just think too, sometimes we want to paint the correct picture of a client at that point in
Yeah.
time, instead of saying, oh, this person's aggressive and they haven't showed any aggressive tendencies for 6 months because their medication has changed or something's changed in their life. They've removed their aggressive son or daughter from their life, so they're calmer or whatever it may be. And I kind of think it's just keeping the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping that picture relevant and not having someone go out with all of these precursors and that not actually be true. Of course, that's really important. So I was just checking the chat.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please feel free. That's definitely what this session is for. So yes, okay, so the personal support plan, we just sort of went through that. Maybe it's a continence management plan, a health plan developed by, prescribed by. We have all of this information. We've got the bladder plan. This is specific for that continence plan that we've selected. So it's going to give us all of this information. It's quite a long form, but obviously there's quite a lot of information that we need to capture in this situation. So we can save that. Come back into our plans. Now, client leave is obviously when we're pausing services for the particular client, and that is, you know, fairly, again, self-explanatory. You can come in here, you can pause the person's leave, and then that will actually pause their services as well. And then the processes, we will go into much more detail because that's your onboarding. We have a whole session on that. Now, next section, we have legal. So this is where we're going to capture, funnily enough, all the legal information, so consents and things like that. We have consent to request or release information, child of aged care rights, medication prompt consent, all of these different things. So feel free to come in here and add in some consents. Again, I'm sure that this would be all kind of based around business practices and what consents you capture and how you want to manage all of that. We have all of this information. We can save that now.
Can we? Can I ask, in that consent, can we put a media consent in there?
So I believe.
Is it already in there?
So it's just having a look. So is that, when you say media, is that sending out newsletters or what?
That, as well as if we may ask them, or if they attend a Ballycarra event, that we take photos of them and upload to social media or anything like that.
Okay, so we do have some different.
Oh,
so if
good.
you click into general consent and just have a look at all of the different options we have. And yes, do feel free to, if you think that there's something quite major missing from there, or if you want just an over-encompassing media consent or whatnot, just to let myself or Rohan know, and we can just pop that in. We have our methods of consent, verbal, opt-out communication types. So if they don't want to receive newsletters or fundraising event invites or anything like that, we can move that over there. And then when you are doing these sorts of campaigns, if you do these sorts of campaigns, you could pull a report for anyone that has newsletter available, and that will then pull up all of your contacts that are happy to receive newsletters. Now, if I remember correctly, so something else I will show you, and this is general across most records, is we've got this system information at the bottom. It's not something that can be edited, but it does just show you the last person that modified a record, which can be handy if you need clarification on something. And this is just what we call field tracking. So that that's just something to keep in mind. If you've come into something and someone's put information in that maybe not correct and you want to find out who did it, that's just a quick way to find out the last person who edited that record. And then we have our legal information. Again, I'm not too sure how often this would come up, but if we have any legal orders or record of criminal activities that we want to record, if it's been disclosed to us, we might want to record that. If they've got a court date coming up or anything else like that, we can record that in there. And our personal information requests. So this is if we are obviously requesting information from the client or from an external provider, we can pop in here the information that we have required. Also, if someone is coming to you asking for information on a client, I'm not sure if that's relevant. Obviously, you would want to make sure that they've first of all got the consent for you to share that information with them, which we would have captured earlier, and who we've actually shared that information to, who requested the information. So it might be a service provider that we're outsourcing to or anything like that. So let me just have a quick look at our agenda. We have really gotten through that session quite quickly. So I'm hoping that everyone's followed along and I haven't gone too fast. But basically, yeah, today was just to get you used to the system, doing that inquiry to convert to client. Please feel free to come into the system, work through these tabs, create records here, there, and everywhere, have a play around. It's really the best way to get used to the system and how it all works together. And yeah, like I said, any feedback, anything of importance or that you think